Hello, welcome to 8.9 News. I'm Costain. The Better Chicken Commitment is a package of science-based criteria that, when implemented together, significantly improve the lives of chickens reared for meat. Compassion in World Farming has used the criteria to create a spotlight table which compares the policies of UK retailers. I spoke to Dan McAlpine from Compassion in World Farming, and I asked him to outline the standards behind the Better Chicken Commitment.
Yeah, sure. So the Better Chicken Commitment is a set of 5 welfare standards that aims to act as a minimum threshold for chicken production globally. And those standards look at the space requirements the chicken has, so how much room it has to kind of move around in its environment. It talks about the breed that the chicken is. So we're looking for slow growth rate breeds rather than the traditional faster growth rate breeds of chicken. What the chicken has to interact with. So we call that enrichment. So that could be things like the perches that the chickens use, the hay bales they can jump upon, and substrate they can use for things like dust bathing and kind of innate behaviors that a chicken would generally do. The final 2 then are the light levels within the barn. So the use of natural light versus any kind of internal lighting and what levels they're at. And then finally, the way an animal is slaughtered. So the way the chicken is slaughtered must be as humane as possible. So there's a criteria on that as well. And the spotlight really shines a light on the supermarkets and their stated position.
Dan, can I just clarify what we mean by chickens and how we differentiate a chicken from a hen?
Yeah, sure. So a chicken, or in the kind of farming, we'll call it a broiler. These chickens are bred for their meat. So these are the chickens that you'll see in the supermarket on the shelves as kind of fresh primal meat or in ingredients. And a hen then is the layer. So they will be the ones that produce the eggs for the systems.
And the expectations and the standards for hens in egg-laying systems would be different again.
Yes, that's right. They're completely, well, they're obviously both chickens, but they have different requirements and different needs.
How do these standards within the Better Chicken Commitment differ from the mainstream?
Yeah, so we're traditionally seeing kind of dim, overcrowded barns at the moment. So just to kind of put that into context, a chicken at the end of its life will have in these traditional barns, will have about the size of an A4 piece of paper of space to move around in. Also, their genetics lines means that they race from going from a small chick to a 2.5 kilo bird in less than 40 days, putting great strain on their kind of musculoskeletal system and their health in that sense. And again, some context: if a human was to grow at the same rate, or a human baby, then they'd be the size and the weight of a piano in the first 2 months of age. So they're growing tremendously fast. The Better Chicken Commitment aims really then to raise these baselines, to give them more space, to give them a slower growing breed. And so the chickens then are not just enduring their environment, they're thriving in it and then being able to kind of perform more natural behaviors.
Could you give us a comparison, for example, in terms of space between a chicken in a mainstream system and a chicken that's in a higher welfare system that's already delivered on the Better Chicken Commitment standards?
Yeah, so they'll get about 20% more space. So without getting into too much detail, so it's all kind of based on the kilogram of bird per meter squared. So they'll go down from 38 kilos per meter squared, which is traditionally around 15 chickens in a meter square space, down to 30 kilos per meter squared, which is around kind of 12 chickens per meter space. So just to obviously reiterate that these are the minimum standards. You do still get free range, organic, and standards that go above and beyond this. But at the Better Chicken there is to really raised baseline to an acceptable level.
Compassion in World Farming's been researching retailer policies to monitor progress towards the commitment. What have you found?
To set the scene, then, we've been looking at entry-level own brand chicken. So these are the chicken that you see on the supermarket shelf, the fresh chicken, which is more kind of in the value range, which has the supermarket's logo on. So not branded by any other kind of chicken brand, but the supermarket's own brand. We're looking at their minimum levels that they impose on their chickens. And we found actually that not all chicken is equal. So when it comes to the welfare standards, they're receiving different levels of welfare between supermarkets. So you can go in as a consumer into one supermarket, maybe expecting the same level of welfare across all supermarkets, but we found that that's simply not the case. And supermarkets are focusing on different areas of welfare. So we have big gaps in supermarket policies, where the BCC, or the Better Chicken Commitment, would state, what is your position on this criteria? Sometimes it's no position at all at the moment. So we're finding big gaps in supermarket policies. And all but a couple of the supermarkets actually are plans to introduce the slower growing breed element, which we see as the kind of most important element of this criteria, and it underpins how a chicken could use the rest of the criteria to have a kind of more fulfilled life.
Why was it that Compassion felt that this research was necessary at this particular point in time?
So we wanted to start by putting ourselves in the shoes of the consumer and asking two questions, really. What welfare of chicken am I buying in this supermarket? And what is the minimum standard of chicken that this supermarket is selling to their consumers? And we found the answer really is it's hard to tell. Even with the experience of us and me and my team at Compassion in World Farming, who we've been trained to decipher supermarket welfare policies, and it's taking an extraordinary amount of time and effort to build this table. So we thought a consumer, traditionally kind of more time poor nowadays, are not going to be able to do this themselves, or if they are, it's going to take a tremendous amount of time and effort from their part. So why not make it easier for them? So we've created a kind of user-friendly table with an important message, and that message really to the consumer is now the choice is yours. The facts are there in the table around what these retailers are stating is their position on these criteria. Now you have the buying power to go and make a choice for yourself. So that's an important message we wanted to get across, but also flipping it on its head there, it's also an important tool for the retailers to use. So we at Compassion will be building work plans with these retailers. They've got themselves now a free gap analysis from Compassion in World Farming about what broiler welfare aspects they could be working on in the next kind of short to medium term. So we'll be working at Compassion in World Farming with all of these supermarkets to fill in their policies and improve the lives of the chickens in their supply chains.
M&S and Waitrose came out best in the spotlight table. What are they doing well that the other retailers aren't?
So M&S and Waitrose are leaders really when it comes to chicken welfare. They were the early adopters of the Better Chicken Commitment, and because of that, they've been able to work with their supply chains, work with NGOs like ourselves, and really bring their consumers on the journey of chicken welfare. So because of that, they've really made great strides in, first of all, implementing in the case of M&S. So M&S are fully implemented on their fresh chicken. You can go into any M&S store and buy a Better Chicken Commitment chicken from their fresh primal range. And Waitrose will be fully implemented by the end of 2025. So they wouldn't have done that if they hadn't committed to the Better Chicken Commitment, because that really galvanizes the key stakeholders within that supply chain journey, including the consumers who have been brought on the journey by good marketing and messaging.
And that transition from mainstream to a system that's delivering the Better Chicken Commitment standards can take 2 or 3 years, can't it?
Exactly, yeah. So it can be a number of years to really engaging with your producers and even then the companies that produce the chickens. So the chickens that you get on the supermarket shelf are kind of part of a genetics line, let's say, that a kind of third generation. So those chickens take up to 2 to 3 years to even get onto a supermarket shelf from a standing start. So M&S started this kind of 4 or 5 years ago and was able to get this onto supermarket shelves last year. So the really good work from the supermarkets there.
Supermarkets have clearly heard that consumers want to see better standards because there has been this flurry of commitments around particularly the amount of space that's available, commitments to 30 kilograms per metre squared rather than the 38, which has been standard. What is it that's extra that those supermarkets need to do? What do they need to prioritise, the ones that aren't meeting the standards of M&S and Waitrose?
Yeah, so I would recommend them speaking to Compassion in World Farming and making a solid public-facing commitment to the Better Chicken commitment. And that's really the only way, as I say, to galvanize the key stakeholders under one kind of mission journey. Breed is the biggest element that all but two of the retailers are missing at the moment. So we would call upon all retailers to assess the breed element of their broiler production, their chicken production, because really that is the element that underpins all of the other criteria. So with a chicken that grows at an exponential rate, they're not able to use the enrichment that they're provided. They're unable to use the extra space that they're provided because they're just simply too big, too heavy towards the back end of their life.
The Better Chicken commitment is obviously the gold standard for the new baseline that you're working towards. Do you think the other supermarkets that aren't doing so well are making genuine progress behind the scenes, or are they really just paying lip service to it at this point?
I think there is progress there. So you can break the criteria down into kind of five blocks. There are some criteria that are easier to implement than others. There are some criteria that cost more than others. So it's unfair to say that supermarkets are not making progress, but it's simply not happening quick enough. And we would like to see more commitments to the Better Chicken commitment, because the retailers really hold the key here for the UK supply chains. If the large retailers do commit, you open up more chickens for the rest of the supply chain to engage with.
And if people want to view the spotlight table, where do they go?
So they can go to the Compassion in World Farming website. So there's the spotlight table there. And then we have a great opinion piece in there as well, which kind of talks around the spotlight and potentially why retailers are scoring the way they have.
That was Dan McAlpine from Compassion in World Farming. More news on our website, 8.9.com. That's all for now. We're back soon. Thanks for watching.